Welcome back. It's still Monday 2015, and like we said on the program, we have a big fish on the program today. Well, I have his profile right here, but it's quite long. So join me this evening to welcome Mr. Joseph Jimi Agbaje on our program today. He's a pharmacist, and well, the conclusion of the matter is that he's now the candidate for the PDP governorship, Lagos State. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
You're welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Nice having you. Well, maybe we'll start off on the package you just watched, and I saw you nodding and saying that actually the crux of the whole matter, talking about leadership distrust. How did we get here? How did we get this bad that people no longer believe leaders when they say anything? That when they say anything, we just they're saying it again. How did we get here?
Well, I think it's not something that is limited to Nigeria. I believe all over the world, the electorate tend to have some measure of lack of trust for their politicians, because politicians, in trying to win elections, tend to overpromise and underdeliver. So they always take promises with a pinch of salt. I think that's really what happens. Whereas maybe if they underpromised and overdelivered, then they will be better trusted, or try to at least promise right, so that they deliver right. I think that's really, it's not something that is limited to Nigeria, it's all over the world.
All right. Now, a peculiar case in Nigeria is the issue of politics of hate. You find that these days, when politicians come out to campaign, you expect that they talk about the manifestos, talk about issues, but you discover now that it's about attacking personalities. For example, just today we read in the papers, former Governor Kala of Oyo State was reported to have collapsed while campaigning, and today he came out to say that's not true. He didn't collapse. So why has it degenerated again? Why do we have to run ourselves down? Why do we have to?
Is it pretense or
well,
for real?
I think, again, you've got social media, which is new. On the social media, you are totally anonymous. And so you can say anything and get away with it. It's different from what you used to have before, where you had to attach your name to a newspaper report or a radio report, in which case you could be sued for libel or whatever. But when it comes to politics at this point in time, so many stories fly around. If you have to take everybody to court, you probably do nothing else. So you need to have a bit of a thick skin. I mean, there are all kinds of rumors that fly around this time. But coming back to the issue of ideas, governance should be about ideas. And really, the electorate will be the ones that should guide the political class in terms of what they want to hear. But if newspapers or news medium or media feel that they're only going to sell their platforms by this kind of news, it means that it's the electorate that is encouraging them. But if they find that those kind of stories don't sell their own medium, then you're likely to move away from such. So maybe the electorate itself is enjoying some of these stories or believes these stories. So I think it's important that we get the political class to talk about ideas as to how you're going to make their lives better. You know, in that way, we'll get a better country.
Yeah, I like your slogan, big ideas.
Bold ideas
and
new opportunities. Yes.
Can you just highlight us on that?
Well,
why you made that your slogan?
Well, basically what we're saying is that, you know, we're a growing mega city, and we're saying that you don't need to reinvent the wheel to govern Lagos. In other words, we're not saying that we want to do things that have not happened in other places. We're saying that there are ways that you can change Lagos for the better by taking ideas from other places. They're bold because they're different, because they're big in the sense that it's not something people are ready to do. And we're saying that you can do this, you can do it differently, you can do it better, and in doing it that way, you are creating opportunities for the people to benefit from. Because government's job basically is not so much to spoon feed, it's to create that environment for you, for the people, in a way that they can stand on their own, in the way that they can grow, that they can live a better life. And that's really what it's all about. It's creating those opportunities for the people to be able to leverage upon.
All right. Now, you also talk about the real change anytime you're campaigning. And then there is another political party that also talks about change. So what's the difference your party is bringing to the table that makes it different or real than what the others are saying?
Like we say in Lagos, when we see change on the other party, we say amen in Lagos, because that's what we're asking for. So we're asking for change. Change in the sense that we believe that in getting the kind of results we want, we may need to do things differently. Differently in the sense that if you have a situation that has been going on, don't forget that those in the ruling party today in Lagos have been there for nearly 16 years. And so if we have a situation where, for example, we say that education, we have a situation today where majority of those that sit for O-levels in Lagos fail the O-levels. In other words, there are more people that fail O-levels, that is 5 credits, maths and English, than those that pass. So we're saying, well, obviously you couldn't have been doing something right if after 16 years, in a new world, the world that we live in today, people are asking how many students score A's, and we're still talking of the majority failing, that then obviously you need a change in the way you're handling education, because you're not getting results 16 years after. And ditto, you talk about health. If you talk about free health for the people, and you know that when you do get to the hospital...
Sorry, let's go back to the issue of education.
Yes.
Now, 16 years on the line, a party has been doing it, consistently putting in their effort, and they're not getting it right. And now, how do you think you're going to... What's new thing, or what different thing?
Well, that's why we talk about bold ideas. What we find is that in education...
I'm talking about education.
Yes, in education, for example, we find that government has not paid enough emphasis on primary education.
How?
They haven't put enough resources to it. They haven't got it right. If you look at the statistics of even those that go to school in Lagos, there are more children that go to private primary schools than go to public
That's not peculiar
schools.
To Lagos State alone.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Lagos. We're concerned. You know, I don't like to compare Lagos with other states in Nigeria, because I like to compare us, to benchmark us with the moving cities of the world.
Okay.
So for us is that, you know, we find that primary education has not been a priority. So we're having children who are finishing primary 6, who can't read English well, who can't speak English well, who don't think in English.
Sorry, I want to cut in at this point. Do you think that's a problem peculiar to Lagos State, or the national education policy?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with national education policy. I think we run away from responsibility when we try to push things to the center. There's no policy that discourages a child from writing and reading English properly.
Right.
So it means that we just haven't got it right. So what I'm getting at is that if you do have a child in primary 6 who cannot read and write in English or think in English, and you push the child up to secondary school, and you begin to pump that child with information in all the other subjects, he's not going to be able to pass O-levels. You know, it's no different from, saying, taking a Yoruba person who speaks Yoruba well, and then you teach him Igbo. One of the languages he's going to learn is Igbo. And at the end of primary 6, you're pushing him to secondary school and you want to teach him in Igbo. Meanwhile, he doesn't even understand the Igbo well. There's no way he's going to pass exams in O-levels. And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
But we have this issue of having, introducing teaching in mother tongue into, from primary level now.
Mm-hmm.
How does that come in, or would you encourage that?
Well, that's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
We're not doing that yet. We're not teaching in mother tongue. I know that the late Professor Babsfafunwa, it was a pet project of his, but somehow it didn't take off. Because the truth is that if in our homes we teach the mother tongue, and you'll find that the children will probably learn better in the mother tongue. But that is not what is happening today. Today, our official language is still English, and we teach in English. And that means that our children must understand English if they're going to go further, or to do well as they grow up. That's the reality. The mother tongue issue is not something that is on at this point in time, because it's going to take a whole new orientation. You're going to need to have teachers who know how to teach in the mother tongue. So you've got to put all that in place in terms of teacher training, in terms of all this, and that is not yet there.
Okay. Still on the issue of governance in Lagos, we know that the issue of Lagos being a mega city has been applauded worldwide, because everyone knows that, of course, Lagos has metamorphosed from what it used to be to what it is now. Now, on the issue of health, what would you do differently? Because you just mentioned it briefly, but specifically, what are the things you will do differently?
Yeah. You know, mega city is related to the population. So the rule of thumb is that any city that is 10 million and over becomes a mega city. It's not whether it doesn't suggest that it's doing well or it's not doing well. It's population related. So because we are 20 million, it makes us a mega city. But you see, the real challenge is that we're growing at such a fast rate. Lagos, for example, is about 20 million, as some say, but it's estimated to be, in another 10 years, to be between 30 and 35 million. So it means the way you govern Lagos must be such that you can cope with that increasing population. You cannot have incremental increases because the population is increasing in a geometric, rate, and therefore you must do it differently. So when you talk about health, for example, the present government talks about free health. Free health is good, but then we all know that you don't go to government hospital and not have money in your pocket. So it is not free in the real sense of the word. So we're saying what we want to do with health is to run a health insurance model, basically. And the health insurance model is to say that, you know, there's a category of people that we'll start with, the vulnerable people, the 0 to 5 years, the 65 and over, the pregnant woman, those that have chronic conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, and the poor.
Accident victims.
And the poor, well, accident victims too, that you capture these people and you pay a premium on their behalf. That's government pays a premium on their behalf. They will choose their own private GP, their own general practitioner, which is just a general doctor, that they will register with. Government will pay on their behalf a premium on a regular basis, so that at the point when they need health service, they will not need to pay, because that service has been paid for. That's the kind of model. And again, when we talk about bold ideas, it's not a new thing. You know, it's something that is done in so many parts of the world and is working. We're only saying that it's time for us to begin to make it work in our country.
Okay, now let's talk about agriculture. Considering the fact that Lagos, they do not have large expanse of land, what are you going to do to change the face of agriculture, or even encourage farmers? And then what type of farming? Then we'll also talk about ocean farming here.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
Well, again, our own land is water.
Yeah.
And so that's why we talk about an ocean economy. Basically, when we're talking about an ocean economy, we're saying we live on water, we have water all around us, we must take advantage of this water. So we have our fishermen, for example. What they do is they catch fish in their small canoes. They have to sell all the fish they catch, or else it's useless to them, or else the fish will rot away. Presently, they just manage to survive on, they manage to live on what they catch and sell at the time that people are ready to buy. So we're saying that we've got to change that a bit and encourage them to catch more fish so that they can make more money. We're saying that we want to convert an axis of Lagos, that's the Beju, Lekki, Epe, Korodu axis, into what we call a national fish processing hub. In other words, we want to say that in that place, we want to encourage people to catch fish in large numbers. We will then have industry coming to provide storage, for example, refrigeration. Okay. So because you see, if a fisherman knows that if I'm going to bring so much fish home, and somebody's going to buy them because they don't have to use them immediately, then he's encouraged to catch more fish. He's encouraged to build bigger boats. Because presently, if he builds a bigger boat, it doesn't really do anything because he cannot sell all the fish. So you get him to get bigger boats. In the process, it means there are more people that will be building boats. You get engines, there'll be people that will be interested in engines, boat engines, for example. These are some of the things we're talking about, an ocean economy. We're talking about the seaport. We're talking about a logistics base. When you say logistics base, the oil and gas sector, a lot of the oil that is taken from the deep sea. And it's right in the middle of nowhere. So there are people that actually have to supply all the needs on the oil rigs. Lagos is very well positioned to take care of that. So that's part of the kind of ocean economy that we're talking about. Now, that's with the water. Of course, with the land, because we don't have the kind of land that we have, but there are things that we can still do with our land. We can still grow rice, for example, in our swampy areas and all. So it's to continue to encourage farming. That's land farming now. Right. I call the water on water farming, you know. So that's the ocean economy. And these are ways to encourage them. But you play on your strengths. And for Lagos, its strength is water. And you should be able to take advantage of that.
Okay, now we'll talk about tax. So many issues about tax, labels, which you have also reacted to in various fora.
Sure.
But now, I want you to use this opportunity to talk about what are you going to do about tax in Lagos State? And then we'll talk about multiple taxation. What are you going to do about
tax, I think for us, we're talking about fairer taxes. Now, don't get me wrong. I've never said people shouldn't pay tax. People must pay tax. But it has to be fair tax. I believe that many of us in Lagos feel that we're very overburdened with the kind of taxes and levies that we go through.
Do you believe that?
Yes.
You believe
I do.
that?
Oh, yes.
Right.
That we are overburdened by the taxes and levies that we go through. Lagos is very harsh in even allowing you to defend yourself on some of the levies that are given to you. You know, it's like a take it or leave it thing. If you are taxed and you are protesting, your place can be sealed up, for example. So we're saying that, yes, people must pay tax, but they must be fair taxes. That is our position. When we talk about levies, multiple taxation, again, that's something that should be discouraged. Let me give an example. I was in Ladipo Market, and they were complaining about that they pay a fee. They call it I think MVAA fee or something to the state. They also pay lock-up shop to the local government. And then local government comes up and says, you also have to pay us the same MVAA fees at the local government level. Now, for the market, for the shop owner, why should I pay a certain license fee at the state and pay the same license fee at the local government? That becomes multiple taxation, you know, and these are some of the things that we're saying shouldn't be. Yes, Lagos State needs money. It needs all the money it can get because it is challenging to run Lagos. But then you have to collect your money right. And so the way forward is really, rather than overburden those in the tax net, is to expand that tax net in capturing more people that will come into the tax net so that the burden on those that are presently being taxed will be lighter.
Yeah. So what exactly would you do to ensure that such doesn't occur?
Well, you're discouraging multiple taxation. You're streamlining this in a way that everybody is clear that you're not going to allow it. But I think, again, what has happened is that over the last 16 years, Lagos State has changed the funding, the revenue generation for the state and local government. Lagos State has taken the avenues that the local governments had to collect money. And so they leave the local government with very little to collect money from, except they go out and bully the citizens, bully the market women, bully everybody. And Lagos, because it's taking their money, the state government, they don't really have the moral right to control them, because it's like, how do you want us to survive? If you've taken our own legitimate sources of money, then you have to allow us to take money. And so they've allowed them to continue in this manner. And so your first thing is to restructure that again, to allow things to work properly. And so you are then in a moral position to say, sorry, you cannot be doing this.
Okay, now with the fall in oil price, that becomes a major challenge for a state like Lagos, for example, who is majorly dependent on IJR, and then for the size of the state. Now, if you are elected as the governor of the state, how do you intend to battle this? And then what other ways would you be generating money for the state?
Well, you will see that if you look at our manifesto, we're very conscious that we're not over-promising and under-delivering like we mentioned at the beginning. Because in reality, it's tough times ahead over the next 2 years with the oil price fall. Not just for Lagos, but for everybody. Because it's likely to affect not just the federal revenue, but it will also affect the internally generated because business will drop, and then once it drops, there's no way that your taxes will not drop. So it's tough times ahead. And that's why the way forward is, one, in diversifying the economy, like I said, If you're able to get the fisherman to do more business, then you'll be able to collect more tax from that aspect of it. Again, we've got to prioritize what we want to do in a way that you're not taking on too much. We've got to recognize recognize government's strength now in terms of what it can do, and allow a partnership with the private sector for those things it cannot do. So you find that a number of the things that government would otherwise do, you will encourage the private sector to partner in this process, so that that income that you've lost will not be felt. And then we feel that there's still a lot of leakage in Lagos State. In other words, a lot of free spending that we can curtail, and in that way, you will find, we believe that we'll be able to, ride the tide.